browser support, multiple users, and mission control. In this demo training, we will look at how all of these can figure into an effective ServiceNow demo. We've all used web-based tools that do not play nicely in one browser or another. Interface elements that don't work or just look wonky. A very important point about ServiceNow is its support for all modern browsers. We can both use this to our advantage and show off this capability pretty easily as part of a demo. Because we are showing multiple users, we can use different browsers for each user. Having perhaps our administrator in Safari, Jane Worker in Chrome, and the ESS with Joe Employee logged in to Safari. This also avoids any can of worms that might be opened by impersonating in a demo. The problem is, how can we distinguish between the browsers and the users more easily so it's easier for a customer or a prospect to follow? Well, for this, we can take advantage of our Mac computers. Sure, we have the ability to switch between browsers with the Command tab and move between our admin and Jane Worker and Joe Employee and even our iPhone simulator. But Mac OS 10.7, also known as Lion, has a nice functionality called Mission Control that we can use to take this a step further to help distinguish. To access Mission Control, use the icon right down there on the dock to open up Mission Control. Alternately, you could use the F3 button on your keyboard, or you can use a 4-finger swipe up on your trackpad. This presents you with all open apps and something up here at the top called Desktop. The Mac supports multiple desktops though, and we can add more desktops to our setup simply by moving our cursor over to the upper right and clicking the plus sign that appears there when we do that. So we can add some desktops here. Now from here, we can move the different browsers to their own desktops. Perhaps moving Chrome to desktop 2, Safari to desktop 3, and our iPhone simulator to desktop 4. Unfortunately, we can't rename the desktops to something more meaningful, so we're stuck with desktop and desktop 2 and desktop 3 and desktop 4 today. How cool would it be if we could name the desktops after the user that's logged in there? Maybe someday. Now to move between your desktops, you can always return here to Mission Control and select the new desktop that you want to go to. It's pretty straightforward to do that. Optionally, you can use your keyboard pressing the Control button and the left and right arrows, and that will move you back and forth. And for those of you who are trackpad wizards, you can use a 4-finger swipe to move to the left or right between the different desktops. Now at this point you might be thinking, what's the point of this? These desktops still all look the same. What's the difference between this and this really, besides having a neat little transition between them? It's still hard to distinguish. Well, we can change the desktop patterns on each of these. So perhaps we want to give our desktop 2 a nice green background. We can come over to desktop 3 here and give that one perhaps a nice purple. And we can come over here to desktop 4. That's just a right click on the desktop and choosing Change Desktop Background. And maybe we'll put the iPhone in space here. Alright, so now we've got our different desktops, and when we view this in Mission Control, we can also see those different desktop colors there. Also, if you're feeling particularly artistic, you could make a wallpaper that identifies the user on the desktop, perhaps on one side of the desktop. Or if you are comfortable with it and you like playing with your browser settings, some browsers also allow you to change the colors of your browser window. So that's another option to help distinguish between the browsers as well. If you don't like losing screen real estate to just have those different colors, Lion also allows applications to go into full screen mode, but this also needs to be built into the app. Firefox does not currently support this, but Chrome and Safari do. So if we come in here, we can make Chrome full screen by clicking this little double arrow in the corner there. And now Chrome is full screen. And if we go back into Mission Control, you'll notice that Chrome has its own desktop essentially, and desktop 2 is now empty. So I'm going to clear out my desktop 2, and if you're like me, maybe a little OCD, you like to have things in a certain order, you can rearrange. And the nice thing about that is we lose that desktop name and we can see that, oh, we're working with Google Chrome in this particular window. And we could do the same here for Safari in our window. Go back into Mission Control. Oops. We'll close that desktop out and drag our Safari back over here. Alright, so now we've got these apps showing their application name instead of a desktop name, a generic desktop name. So that's great. And the great thing about these apps in full screen too is if you're using them in full screen, then when you close them, the next time you open them, they'll be in full screen still. Now, what about other apps? What if you always want them to open in a particular desktop as well? Maybe you only use your iPhone simulator for demos and you always want to open it in this same desktop. Well, we can come in here, we can right-click iOS Simulator on the dock, and if we go to Options, we can tell it to assign it to always open on this desktop. Notice there's also an option there for all desktops. So if there is a piece of software that you want to appear on all desktops, regardless of which desktop you're on, perhaps a screen capture software or some other piece of software, you can select all desktops there and it will show up on all of your desktops all the time. And that does it for this session. That's a quick introduction to Mission Control and how you can use it to help with your demonstrations using different browsers and different users logged in to each of those browsers. I hope you found it useful. Happy demoing!